Today we're going to be making collard greens and I'm going to show you how to start the collard greens. But first I want you to start rendering your meat for the collard greens. We're going to be using a couple of pieces of salt pork and one piece of old salt pork. And we're going to fry that extremely slow until all of the oil, all of the grease, it renders out of the salt pork and it looks more like bacon. This is what your salt pork looks like after you have rendered it. If you notice, they look more like bacon bits, and there's quite a bit of grease in your pot, which is what you want because you want your greens to have lots of flavor. If you don't have any salt pork to use some bacon grease. And usually everybody saves their bacon grease. Use a couple of tablespoons of bacon grease to start with. And I say start with because the first part of doing greens is just as important as the last part. So today we're going to be making a delicious pot of collard greens. When you buy your collard greens, you want to pick them, of course, and you look at both sides and pull out part of the middle stick. I have done that for most of these. You just look at both sides and make sure you don't have any bugs or worms or bit grit, and then pull out some of the stem. After you're done picking all of your greens, you take them to the sink and wash them. After you have washed your greens, what you're going to be doing is you're going to stack them. Okay, you can stack your greens at a time. I tend to stack a lot of them because I'm always in a hurry. But you stack your greens, and after you stack your greens, you're going to roll them up like so. And you roll them up as tightly as you can. And after you roll them up, you take a knife. You're going to take your greens and you're going to cut them into thin strips. Some people like cutting them an inch, but I'm kind of a quarter inch, half inch girl. After you have cut all of your greens, at least a half inch, quarter of an inch, you're going to wash them one more time. When you're washing them when they're still full, you don't need to wash them no more than 3 times. You should have them pretty clean by then. And if you don't, if for some reason you still have a little grit in your sink or in your dish pan, wash them again first. But when they're clean, you want to get them cut up. Then you're going to put them in the sink, cover them with water, cold water. After you put them in the sink and get them covered with cold water, this is your most important part. When you cover your greens with water, you're then going to put about a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons of baking soda in your water and stir it around. Leave your greens in the baking soda water at least 5 minutes. Okay. This is some of the pork stock that we made earlier that we froze, and I just unfroze it. This is from a prior cooking. I might use all of this for my greens. This is actually 2 bunches of greens, but I probably won't. We'll start cooking and then we'll see where we are. Over here, I have my salt pork that I have rendered. I'm going to turn my pot up high because I want it to be really hot. These are my greens that we have already washed and soaked in our baking soda water. We're going to take our greens like this and hope you're comfortable with this, but just take your time and be careful. I have a handful of greens. I'm going to put them in the pot, turn around a little bit. Another handful, put them in the pot, turn around a little bit. So I'm going to do this until I got all of my greens in the pot. Again, this is 2 bunches of greens. And adjust your seasoning and also your stock according to how many you have. I find it better that if I'm having company, I'll just do 2 cookings of greens because when you're serving people greens, and trust me, they will want your greens, you want them to be good when they get there to get them. To our greens, we're going to add about a half a cup of lard or 3/4 of a cup. If you don't have any lard, again, you can do bacon grease. This is 2 tablespoons of sugar. I'm gonna press that over. And I have 2 parts of pepper, red pepper, because I like a little red pepper in mine. It's not going to be hot, don't worry about that. But it does add a little extra flavor. And to this, I'm gonna start off with just a little juice. Notice what I'm doing here. I'm not trying to drown them. I'm gonna stir this up. And if you can see how, when you're stirring them up, see how that changes how your greens are cooking? And we're going to stir that up, and then we're going to cover them and let them cook for about 5 minutes. And we're going to adjust our juice, okay? And cover them and cook them for about 5 minutes. And then we're going to adjust our juice, put a little bit more in there because we don't want it flooded with water. We do want it covered with water, okay? Which is the stock is what I'm talking about. And always remember that greens make juice also. So you don't want too much water because you do want to taste your pork stock for your greens. Notice when you look at your greens, I've put enough stock just to cover it. But the greens do have enough juice in it. Now, if you don't like a whole lot of pot liquor to be left over, which I find most of the time they eat the greens and you're throwing out that good liquor. So I just kind of make sure that they're covered. Then I'm going to, with the liquid, then I'm going to cover the pot and let them simmer. Not too fast, but not too slow. You don't want a real slow simmer, but you do want it to be boiling. And we're going to do that for about 10 or 15 minutes. Yes, that's all it takes. And then they're going to be done. So we'll give it a couple minutes. You got a beautiful pot of greens after about 15 minutes. This bowl of greens has just a little bite to it. You're welcome to cook them longer. There's lots of juice in here. The juice is hot. Remember, when you turn your stove off your greens, they're still cooking as long as that liquid is hot. And of course, we got to serve it with some cornbread. And remember, nothing beats a failure but a try. So if you don't get it the first time, try it again.